Have you ever wondered what actually stops a country from just running out of cash? Or how billions in taxpayer dollars are tracked, protected, and actually spent? It all comes down to the unsung hero of economics, public financial management, or PFM. Welcome to this explainer on Ghana's public financial management framework. Today, we're looking at exactly how a nation attempts to safeguard its economy, specifically focusing on the landmark Act 921 and its massive 2025 upgrades.
Okay, let's dive into this. To make sense of this entire framework, we've structured this massive legal topic into a really logical, easy-to-follow journey. We'll start with the backbone of governance, look at the 2016 financial blueprint, follow the public money, dig into accountability and severe sanctions, explore the 2025 fiscal upgrade, and finally, look at moving from paper to practice.
Section 1. The backbone of governance. Demystifying PFM.
Before we get into all the heavy legal text, let's ground this in why it actually matters to you. Think about how you manage your own household budget. You've got income coming in from your job, you have bills to pay, and hopefully you set aside some savings for a rainy day. If you consistently overspend, well, you get into debt. Public financial management is exactly that, just on a massive national scale. It's the whole shebang, the entire set of laws, systems, and processes a government uses to raise money, allocate it, spend it, and then audit the results. In short, a strong PFM framework is basically a country's ultimate defense system against economic instability.
Section 2. The 2016 Financial Blueprint, Act 921.
Let's move to and see how this builds historically. The 2016 blueprint was the foundational moment Ghana completely rewrote its financial playbook. Before this, the rules were scattered everywhere across various laws, which made oversight incredibly difficult. Act 921 consolidated everything into one powerful framework. Then, in 2018, they added Act 982, bringing in a Fiscal Advisory Council. But, as we'll explore in a minute, the real game-changer happened in April 2025 when Act 1136 was assented to, dropping some incredibly strict, binding fiscal rules.
But who is actually pulling the levers of power here? The Act hands out some massive responsibilities. Imagine the absolute chaos if every single government agency could just take out a multi-million-dollar loan whenever they felt like it. Actually, scratch that, it would be a total disaster. That's exactly why the Minister of Finance holds the absolute sole authority to borrow money or issue guarantees. Nobody else can do it. Then you've got the Comptroller and Accountant General, who acts as the supreme guardian of the funds, and finally Parliament, the ultimate oversight body which actually has to approve the budget and keep a super close eye on the national debt.
Section 3. Following the public money. The budget cycle.
So now that we know who is in charge, how does this machine actually move cash throughout the year? The law forces discipline through these really strict chronological deadlines. By May, the minister has to prepare a fiscal strategy document. By October 15th, the proposed budget goes to Cabinet. A month later, November 15th, it's presented to Parliament. And by December 31st, it absolutely must be approved. This isn't just basic scheduling. This forces transparency and predictability. Markets need to know when money flows, and these deadlines ensure everyone knows exactly what's happening.
And where does all that approved money actually sit? Enter the Treasury Single Account, or TSA. Think of it like a giant, transparent master vault. Instead of hundreds of government agencies squirreling away cash in fragmented bank accounts, the TSA centralizes it all at the Bank of Ghana. It gives the government a single consolidated view of its cash. It's absolutely crucial because it prevents idle funds from just sitting uselessly in one agency's account while another agency is out there forced to borrow money at high interest rates.
Section 4. Accountability and severe sanctions, the teeth of the law.
A rulebook is absolutely useless if nobody actually follows it, right? And that brings us to the teeth of the law. 5. That is not a financial target. That's the number of years public officials can spend in prison. Committing the government to unauthorized financial agreements or failing to report known fraud carries severe, life-altering criminal consequences. The framework makes it crystal clear. Playing reckless games with public money is not just a policy failure, it is literally a crime. The law goes even further with Section 97, introducing this concept of a surcharge. Imagine making a mistake at work, and your boss just hands you a bill for $1 million. That is effectively what happens here. If a public officer's negligence causes a loss of public funds, that amount becomes a personal debt. They are personally, financially liable to pay it back. It hits them right in their own wallets, which is for sure the strongest deterrent against careless spending.
Section 5. The 2025 Fiscal Upgrade, Act 1136.
Yet, even with all these rules, economic challenges stuck around. Which brings us to the plot twist of our explainer. the 2025 Amendment. And this brilliantly illustrates the shift in strategy. The old framework relied heavily on advisory bodies and targets that could be, kind of flexible. This new upgrade threw that out entirely. It introduced an independent fiscal council, totally binding numerical rules, and automatic moratoriums. It is a massive shift from asking the government to be responsible to legally forcing them to be.
Let's look at these strict new rules. The first is the public debt rule. This legally caps the public debt to GDP ratio at exactly 45% and mandates this has to be achieved by the year 2034. It gives the government a hard deadline and a decade-long runway to get things sustainable. Capping debt at 45% gives a healthy buffer so the country isn't spending all its revenue just paying off interest.
So the crucial point is how they actually plan to achieve that lower debt level. That is where the new primary balance rule comes in. The law now mandates a binding annual surplus of at least 1.5% of GDP. Basically, a primary balance is your revenue minus your spending before paying debt interest. This means the government must consistently bring in more money than it spends on daily operations, ensuring there's extra cash legally dedicated to paying down that mountain of debt.
But what happens if they miss these targets? The 2025 upgrades introduced extreme automatic consequences. Miss targets for 2 successive years, and Parliament can pass a vote of censure on the finance minister. Heads of entities can face personal liability and jail. And most drastically, missing the primary balance rule triggers an automatic moratorium on new, non-essential infrastructure projects. The spending literally just stops by law. No political favors, no exceptions.
Section 6. From Paper to Practice, the Real-World Challenge.
As any policy expert will tell you, a perfect rulebook doesn't automatically change reality. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this concept of isomorphic mimicry. It's this phenomenal academic concept warning against nations adopting laws that look world-class on paper to international observers, while their actual on-the-ground capability to execute them just lags completely behind. It's like building a car that looks exactly like a Ferrari on the outside but has a lawnmower engine on the inside. The law demands one thing, but reality does another. To combat this, scholars highlight a built-in enforcement mechanism: transparency. Research shows transparency isn't just paperwork, it equals discipline. Highly accessible budget transparency directly reduces the chance for politicians to opportunistically manipulate finances right before an election to win votes. When the public and the new fiscal council can see the data clearly, it enforces the rules way better than just the threat of jail time. Sunlight, as they say, is the best disinfectant.
Which leaves us with the ultimate question. Ghana's built a truly formidable legal framework with the 2016 Act and these severe 2025 upgrades. But will these strict laws on paper finally translate to unshakable fiscal discipline in practice? The tools are there, the penalties are set, but the true test of the nation's economic future is going to be in the daily execution. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive. Keep questioning the systems around you, and I'll see you next time.